All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you, as always, for locking in, whether you're watching us, whether you're listening to us on the audio side. Appreciate y'all very much. If you're watching us on the video side, we are live here on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. I am joined in studio right now by friend, recurring guest. Been a few weeks. Tone Pucks. What's going on, man? How you doing?
It's been a couple weeks, right? Has it been 2 or 3?
It's been 2.
2.
Well, first time in 3 weeks, so 2 weeks.
All right, that's fair.
2 weeks without you, I should say, on Wednesdays.
I got it. I'm not sure how I'm doing, to answer your question, if that's what it was. I'm very upset with my baseball team right now. But I also, I also smoked a little guns before we came on, so I've got these competing forces happening right now. So I'm not sure what you're gonna get tonight, but what I do, you're probably going to catch a little bit of my ire that would otherwise have been directed at a bunch of 14-year-olds, but now it's going to be directed at you because it already was there.
It was festering already?
It was already there, and now this is kind of putting it over the top a little bit. Yeah, Festivus is coming early for you, my friend.
Why?
Festivus is coming early for you because I got a lot of problems with you right now. All right, I do, and I figure nowhere better than to air them here
When we're live?
All right, absolutely. All right.
Are these going to be like periodic things throughout the episode, or am I going to get hammered right here at the very beginning?
We're going right now, and then we'll see where it goes from here. I'm gonna start with I don't like the way you talk to me. Okay. We hadn't been in touch for like the better part of a week. Okay. I don't even think I knew what day it was when your mid-morning text came in with need confirmation ASAP. All right, like settle down. All right, settle down with your need confirmation ASAP. We haven't talked about shit in a week and a half, but you need confirmation ASAP. Does Matt Perino get the need confirmation ASAP text? Or is that just safe for me?
Just you. I mean, to be fair, I expect you to blow me off. So you've told me in the past I need to remind you. Like if I don't remind you, you're going to forget. You pretty much have said that before to me many times, actually.
That's fair. All right, that's a fair response.
You feel bumps too, don't you, because of the draft stuff?
Well, okay. I mean, let's get right to that. All right. As the list really just goes on and on here. Let's get to why we were out of touch for the better part of a week. Okay. Because in the midst of maybe the biggest Sabre news in the past 10 years since maybe securing the Eichel trade with the tank or something like that, in the midst of this huge Sabres news and rehiring of Lindy Ruff, to which, you at the very least gave me some video props on when it happened. You bumped me and my takes on that for like one last mock draft, and not with like someone like who knows what they're talking about and shit like that. All right. You bumped me for a solo mock draft. All right. With your purple hoodie and the stupid fucking purple matching hat too. All right. That's what I got bumped for, and why I'm on 2 weeks now of like what is yesterday's news with regards to Ruff and the Sabres and shit.
That's fair. And by the way, good segue of sorts, because we're going to talk about Lindy Ruff here later in the show. I was saving it for, in fairness to me, it's not that I didn't want to talk about Lindy Ruff. It's not that I didn't think Lindy Ruff was big news. It's just that we were literally, a couple days before the NFL draft, and I just felt like it would get blown over if we spent anytime talking about Lindy Ruff, people wouldn't want to hear about that. They were only interested in what the Bills may or may not do with the draft.
Well, thank God. All right. And not only, did you make sure that people got their last minute mock draft from you, thank God you then followed it up by, quite frankly, probably being the most annoying, semi-credible Bills Twitter person over the course of the next 3 days. All right. That's how you followed up the mock draft, because you were near insufferable. All right, during the course of the draft weekend.
How come?
That's another problem.
Because of my reactions to the picks?
Yeah,
Or
man, you're
just a
just
combination
going
of everything?
overboard. It's just overboard with the double dip. Like, like you knew that they needed to do that. You don't know what they know. All right, and certainly you can have your reactions, especially all right. On Thursday night, Thursday and Friday for that matter, 1 through 3, huge. I expect the reaction.
I might have.
You didn't stop though, bro. All right, you didn't stop. You wanted that double dip into like the 6th round. You just kept going, and
that's true.
And
that's fair. I did.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you were super annoying.
I'm over that part now, though. But you're right. I was. I didn't enjoy the draft because of that. You know what? I want to circle back to the draft in a few minutes. And again, we're also going to talk Lindy Ruff, and I want to get your takes right now. The draft is over. Free agency for the most part is over. I want to know where you think right now this Bills team stands as it is right now, how good they are or how good they're not. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Because you went all in on me like right away, I kind of had a couple.
I wasn't even done. The way I see it right now on my little index card that I brought, I'm about 68% through the rant.
By
I've got
the way,
a couple more things.
Incredibly rare. You must have a lot of shit to be mad at me about if you have an index card.
I do. I brought an index card.
You used to have an index card all the time. You used to have some, well, not all the time, but a lot of the time you would have a couple notes at least jotted down. Yeah. What you wanted to get to.
I had that once.
It's been quite a while. Now, usually you roll up in here like 2-3 minutes before the show and no prep, which by the way, we didn't do any prep at all for this one as well. But you do got some talking points. I kind of I had 2 like small talk things here that maybe only a small portion of people who listen or watch us may even understand, but I kind of wanted to bring it up anyway. And now I don't know if I feel safe enough to do this. Yeah, I'm going to anyway.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you this. All right, so Buffalo news of sorts, Western New York news, I suppose. The Boulevard Mall closed officially. Were you what I wanted to ask you is, because we didn't become friends until high school. For those who are new to the show or don't know Tone, we've been friends like since freshman, sophomore year of high school. So we're talking like 3.5 decades plus at this point. But I didn't know you when you were like young, and I don't remember you being a Boulevard Mall person. Like, were you a guy that went to the Boulevard Mall when we were kids?
Yeah, the Boulevard Mall was my mall. You know what I mean? It was the closest one. And I don't think I did much mall hanging. I don't think I had any cause to do a lot of mall hanging. But if I were to, go to the mall, or maybe as an occasional event, all right, but certainly also in the sense of going there to grab something, Boulevard Mall was my mall. Now I don't think it carries with me the nostalgia that it does you to bring it up, but it was my mall.
Well, it's not. Well, if it is nostalgia, it's not nostalgia in a good way. Boulevard Mall wasn't my mall. I don't know if I had one, and if I did, it was probably Main Place Mall when we were young.
Yeah, we both worked there.
But yeah, we did together at one time. Pro Image, shout out, 1987, 88.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe
anyway, the Boulevard Mall. So I saw, it might have been Joe from Queens, Buffalo Wins, who might have retweeted something about Boulevard, and it got me thinking. And then I remembered, quick little story here. Again, I didn't even know you at the time. I actually got caught shoplifting at the Boulevard Mall 2 or 3 days before Christmas when I was probably, I don't know, maybe 12 years old. I went there. I don't know how we got there. Maybe his older brother or something, but Frank Scardato and I were at the Boulevard Mall, and I think it was J.C. Penney's at the Boulevard Mall, and there were some isotoner gloves. And I don't know what the fuck possessed me to even think about doing it. I thought
I don't know what's possessing you to tell this story.
Because of the Boulevard Mall
That's
closing.
the part. Like, look, I come on here and I shamelessly tout my White Claws for the day and other various indiscretions. But I'm a little taken aback by 12-year-old shoplifting you and the need to tell your people.
I'm paying homage to the Boulevard Mall right now.
And dropping a friend's like full name. Like I try to never do that, dude. I don't
he didn't do anything wrong.
Well, still, you don't want nothing to do with you.
I'm going to make sure I send him this clip actually. But yeah, I got some isotoner gloves and I thought I was being slick. Like I can't remember where I put them, but I put them like in my jack pocket or something. And I was like, not rushing out, but slowly walking out. I thought it was being slick. I literally got caught by 3 different people. 3 people followed me outside of the mall, caught me. This is like 2 or 3 days before Christmas. Got brought to the holding center or whatever. I thought my father was going to
12?
fucking 12 years old. Yeah.
What kind of holding center?
Well, the security, whatever it is.
At the mall itself, not the real holding center.
I think it might. Well, yeah, I think
there's
it might have been
no way your
12-year-old
ass went to the real holding center.
It was the mall. It was probably the mall holding center.
I've been there. The Pop-Tarts are delicious.
Well, put it this way, dude. My parents, who didn't drive. I can't remember who got me, but I swear to God, I thought, my dad. That's why I thought you might get a little kick out of this. Can you imagine my father, probably half drunk by this mid-afternoon, so he definitely had a buzz on, finding out that his 11 or 12-year-old son got caught shoplifting at fucking the Boulevard Mall before Christmas. I literally thought I was going to die that day, man.
To know the Morans is to really be able to enhance and enjoy that story for sure.
Yeah, like
to know the Abbotsford Morans.
Yeah, you'd have to know my dad, I guess, or my parents to be able to really enjoy that story. And one more quick one too. Our friend Greedy, are you friends with him?
Yeah, man, funny. Did you see Facebook memes?
He put up a status. Our coach from high school. Rosie, he ran into him. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw it, and I was not mentioned, and it was a little disappointing.
So he was coach for both of us for different sports. He coached you for baseball, me for football. I was taken back. I don't know why. I thought he died maybe decades ago. It was.
I'd also like to add that
pleasantly surprised to see him alive, man.
It's not. I saw him when last time I was delivering for Lenovo. I'm going back 3 to 5, but I mean, my man's looked healthy as all hell. All right, not that long ago. What I think is interesting though is, when you mentioned that he coached us in different sports, me in baseball and you in football, this is not like in an era where, it was impossible to be a 2-sport athlete. And I was just so locked in baseball, and Pat was just so locked in as a football player that we didn't play the other sport.
I played tennis. I played tennis for the last couple
anything years. Like that at all.
I played JV baseball for a year. That's where
I think I remember that.
We played on the you were freshman, I was a sophomore.
That's right.
Yeah, and then I ended up playing tennis for Mr. Marinaccio my junior and senior years. By the way, shout out Lafayette High School. That's what we're talking about for the 3 people that were listening that actually care. But anyway, I don't know. It's just a little stroll down memory lane.
Tough week for a shout out to the old alma mater. I'm pretty sure they were in the news for a stabbing.
Yeah, that is bad. That is bad. I've heard that school, I saw in the article or something, that's the second incident, but violence at the school has been down in recent years, of course, which is good. But yeah, man, you never like to see that shit. Anyway, all right, now that we're done with our little nostalgic trip about me stealing isotoner gloves and almost getting killed, and our high school coach still around 35 years later.
How far into it are we?
What, the show?
Yeah.
Farther than we should be before we start talking about the Bills, because let's get that now.
Well, I'm starting to feel like I might have a back-to-backer in me. You know what I mean? We can just keep, busting balls here on this one, and then we come back with the rough and the Bill stuff. I might have a back-to-backer in me.
We'll see how this goes.
Or I might
with
fucking be done with you in 10 minutes. Either or.
Let's let me start with a straight up question. You can layer this any way you want. I want to know, because you went at me a little bit with my draft takes, and when I've been negative towards the Buffalo Bills, I feel like you've been a more glass half full type guy when it comes to this team. Not even just the draft week, but like probably this entire offseason since the season ended. So now the draft's over. For the most part, this roster's set. I mean, they're probably going to add a body or two after June 1st, but you can layer this any way you want. But I guess the general question I want to ask you is, where do you think this team is right now? Like, how good are the 2024 Buffalo Bills right now? You can compare them to last year. You can compare them to their peers around the league right now. Any way that you want to shape that. But the question is, how good are the 2024 Buffalo Bills?
They remain all right. The best team in their division, which is the first place to start if you believe that a team is still on the a path to contention, all right, versus if they've come back a little bit. Forgetting for a moment, being the betting favorites or whatever, of which they are still, a modest favorite. I think, I think this division is still theirs, barring some more things happening for Miami and the Jets, more things that they need to have happen, all right, than we need to have happen. All right. The Jets need a quarterback who's pushing 40 coming off an Achilles, all right, to regain his old form. That's a lot. It's a big ask. All right. And the Dolphins need a quarterback who has proven to be quite mid themselves. All right. Even acknowledging somewhat. All right. In terms of, the long-term commitment and stuff like that, against like the best player in top 3 player in football, at the most important position. So this division still, belongs to the Buffalo Bills as far as I'm concerned, which immediately puts them in a championship conversation. So aside from getting into the specifics of the roster and things like that and how many wins, that is where I would start to defend my point. All right. They're the best team in the AFC East. And with that comes a lot of doors opening. From there, if I went over to the roster side of it and what do I feel about this team as a championship level contender, once they, if they were to move beyond just winning the division. I kind of dig the reverse AFC power rankings that Shope and the Bulldog do. They certainly have done a nice job keeping it alive as a weekly bit. Not quite Howard Picks the Bills, but their reverse power rankings definitely has some staying power. And I think they got the Bills right around where I would put them. All right. Somewhere in the, I would say 3 to 5 range. All right. I think they've got them at 5 or whatever, but I would say that you could argue the Bills anywhere between 3 and 5. And unlike something that you said, when prefacing this, I don't think they're done. All right. I do think the veteran pass rusher and quite possibly the veteran receiver are still in play. I've, credit me, man. I've been right about a lot of things with with money and being in free agency. All right. I have. I've said a lot of 6 to 8s would be spent.
Yeah, you were right.
When you thought it would be, scraps. And I just don't think he's entirely done. Definitely at the pass rusher. I think a pass rusher is definitely coming.
Like this
year's Leonard Floyd is coming, I think.
Yannick Ngaju would be a really good pickup for them.
They're out there, man.
Come June
they're just,
1st.
They're flat out there. So I think the Bills roster will improve by virtue of that. And I'll end on this point. I think the way the schedule plays out is going to be huge. Okay. I think if anything is going to, I was going to say if anything's really going to need to take some time, it's going to be that passing offense, new weapons, But look, there's a lot of turnover in that secondary too. So, there are 2 significant groups on each side of the ball that has a lot to get familiar with. And I would hope that, they can get familiar with it with a slightly easier first month and a half
Sure.
than otherwise. But
Schedule comes out next week, so we'll
I
know
think
pretty soon.
I think they have the pieces to be an absolute championship contender. Not only what I think might be added, but also what I think some people are a little skeptical about. And I understand it. The wide two huge dudes for me that were so hung up on, is Coleman good or a viable one someday, whatever, today, how many snaps is he getting from the X because he's a good blocker, you know what I mean? We're getting all Coleman-y, and we're getting, because the bottom of the true 1 through 4 depth is Hollins, and we're like, oh my God, if Mac Hollins has to play, how is it gonna be? And like, those are two kind of iffy propositions. Like, they're gonna come, but there a lot needs to happen for those things to matter. It's the two in the middle, all right, they're gonna drive this wide receiver train for me this year. It's Samuel and Shakir, man.
Yeah.
All right. Do you believe in those players? If you do, then I'm telling you right now, this team's passing game is going to be fine. If you don't, well, okay, then, Keon Coleman, all right, as a 1, and Mac Hollins as a 4 is not going to be able to make that better. But the two keys to the passing game coming together for me are those two. And I'm literally forgetting about Dalton Kincaid. Pat, this team is fine.
Yeah.
This team is fine.
I love your point, and I think it's the most important one. Is it's so easy to say how good are the Bills, and instantly you go to, well, can they beat the Chiefs, or can they beat the Texans or the Ravens? But to your point, and I think you're 100% right, you got to start by winning your division, and you got to be the best of the 4 teams in your division. That gets you into the playoffs, and it gets you a home game. No matter what your record is, you get into the dance, you get a home game by winning your division. I do think the Bills still are the best team in the AFC East.
Would you also say that right now they are currently the best positioned team in the AFC East, like well beyond this year? I mean, come on.
Yes.
There's nobody behind Aaron Rodgers.
All right. Yeah.
All right. The Pats don't have their quarterback yet. I mean, whatever. Drake May, go ahead. All right.
I like
and
Drake.
And the Dolphins are getting older at receiver with Tyreek, and they're about to be a different look. I'm just saying, there is no division I would want to be in more than the AFC East right now. Nobody's on the up. Nobody's on the up.
That's fair. All right, you're right. Miami's going to have to give Tua some big-ass money that they're probably going to regret. Jalen Waddle is going to get paid, and they're going to lose even more players. They lost some guys this year. They kind of felt this thing as well. Yeah, the Jets got some really good young players, but they're going into the situation like Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, a couple other young players. They're going to go get some big money soon, too. That's why I love Houston so much right now. They got their best players on rookie deals, so they could do a lot of things for the next couple of years. I do like the Patriots. Not now, but they get the quarterback. They got 2 receivers in the draft that I love. Got a pair of offensive linemen. They got some good parts on defense. Christian Barrymore is a hell of a defensive tackle. So I think they're in good position. They're just not good right now.
They're at the very, very beginning of it, man.
Sure. But, I mean, Houston was, the second pick in the draft 2 years ago. And
Bro,
they won their division this past year. It happens every year. Teams
come out of nowhere. They ain't the Patriots of our 30s, my man.
That's fair.
They're just, they don't deserve that. They just don't have that credit anymore. Right now, the New England Patriots are a straight bottom feeder. They're a straight bottom feeder, and we're lucky to have them in our division.
I don't know about all that. I don't know. But the Bills are the best team in the division. I'll say that. Here's the reason why I think the Bills might actually be better right now than they were last year. And I know that sounds crazy because you look at the names they lost versus who they gained. And to me, it's the defense. I think this defense might be better this year. First of all, you're going to hopefully have a healthy Matt Milano back. And the other thing to me that I love about this defense, well, two things. I like that guys like Bernard and Benford, they're ascending still. Like they were good last year. I think they're going to get better. So you got them, you got established guys like Oliver, Rizzo, who still could be ascending. I do like the secondary. Look, I love Micah Hyde. I love Jordan Poyer, but they were borderline washed up last year. You're right about the transition with Edwards and Rapp and Bishop for sure. I mean, it just doesn't happen overnight, but I think they might be more talented than the 2023, 2024 Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. And I'll tell you one other thing too. I hated the draft or the pick of Cole Bishop at first because I was like, why do you got to draft an in the box guy? I like Cameron Kitchens is a Micah Hyde type. I was surprised the Bills didn't take him. But then I read some stuff, saw some film on other outlets, and he's a matchup guy. Like Travis Kelce killed the Bills. This is a guy who could cover tight ends. I think they drafted guys for matchup purposes. Taking a tight end, being a safety who could blitz better. That's the reason why they took Bishop. What were you saying?
My first reaction to the Bishop pick, who was it that threw out? Oh, it was Sal. It was Capaccio threw out a Saran Neal reference, and that made people panic a little bit.
He said to start though, but yes.
What I see him as the Poyer dime replacement. When the Bills were forced to go to like a big dime where they brought Poyer in. What are you reading? I'm making a really good point right here.
Ryan Gallivan says Cole Bishop will be a perennial Pro Bowler. There, you heard it first.
There's no question there. There's no question there. First person I thought of when the Bills made a pick. No, but you know how Poyer played in the box, kind of as that second linebacker. When Milano was out and they couldn't find a soul to cover in that role. I could see Bishop starting in that role in the Poyer big dime role, and certainly just evolving from there. Very interesting though. I mean, we don't really talk a lot about how much that position turned over. It's wow, it's in our face right now. We got the replacements, right? I mean, that's what makes it like we have the conversation now, because we have the replacements.
And I have confidence in McDermott. Like, he is good at coaching defensive backs. More than anything else, how important is Von Miller right now? As things stand, to me, he's huge.
I've got a very strong opinion on how I think Von Miller's performance can affect the Bills this year. If Von Miller, and I'll also ask you if you think this is enough, if this is enough for you. All right. If Von Miller can just be last year's Leonard Floyd, I'd be fine.
Leonard Floyd last year?
Yep.
100%.
So, all I want Von Miller to be.
100%.
All right. Because it's not like we even really had Von Miller last year, right? So no. just be last year's Leonard Floyd, and I'm good. I question strongly whether or not Von Miller has anything left to be last year's Leonard Floyd.
That's why I said, how important is he, though? Because let's just say he's not. But forget about, maybe he could be Leonard Floyd and maybe only get 7-8 sacks instead of 10.5 sacks, but he could still have some big moments, some big plays and big moments, and still do some good things, even if the sack total's not there. But what happens, and this is an important part of this equation right now with the 2024 Bills, what happens if Von Miller is closer to last year than he is Leonard Floyd?
Well, you want to know the answer?
That's a unit that's in trouble,
look,
right?
This is coming from an admitted Brandon Beane fanboy. All right, I'll even throw McDermott in it too. The answer is they're going to see it. They're going to see it at OTAs, and then they're going to make the move. All right, they're going to wait to see how
that soon?
How Miller is moving. Well, I was just reading. Thompson threw down a bunch of dates. I'm not sure which ones Miller will be here for, but I expect him to be here for probably a mandatory and one more. I think the Bills are gonna, wait to see how he comes in, and if he just, they'll be watching him like a hawk. And if he's lacking the burst or whatever it is that they're their medical people see, then they're going to feel, they're going to feel the pressure a little bit. If by some reason there is something tangible that they can see when Von Miller gets back to the building this year than when he left it last year, then maybe they roll the dice.
Pulling up something here to pull up defensive ends that are available come June 1st. And there's a couple. Bud Dupree's a pass rusher that's out there. Like I said, Yannick Ngahu, that's the guy I think that I'll probably pronounce his name wrong. I always do. But anyway, he'd be a great addition. Carl Lawson played for the Jets last year, and Emmanuel Agba. So there's some decent.
That's a deep market, man. It's
a pretty good market.
It's a deep market. All right. If you're willing, those are guys who know. All right. Basically, they know what Leonard Floyd did last year.
Yeah.
Right. Hung around, hung back, got 10 mil from a pass rush needy Super Bowl contender. And that's probably going to happen for a lot of these cats too. And it's probably going to happen with the Bills. I think they're going to add there. And I think it's going to be a significant add.
All right. Well, let's say Von Miller is decent this year and they add somebody. Between the two, you're going to equate to what Leonard Floyd gave you, which I think we would agree would be good enough. I also think another underrated low-key thing, like we talked about the secondary, I think a low-key part about this team that has improved that nobody talks about because it's all about the receivers. Last year, the defensive tackle depth on this team was trash. When Ed Oliver and DeQuan Jones were not on the field because of whether they were banged up or whether they just were tired, the drop-off was crazy, man. Jordan Phillips, not that guy. Poona Ford, Linval Joseph, Tim Settle, they got pretty much nothing from many of those guys. So to go on and sign Austin Johnson, who's not a great tackle, but I think he's an upgrade, and then to draft Dwayne Carter in the 3rd round. Again, another pick, because you're not wrong. I was pissed that the Bills didn't double down at wide receiver, especially rounds 3 or 4. That's when I really got mad because I was expecting it. But as time has settled in over these last handful of days or whatever, Dwayne Carter's a good player. And that's a position, because the way Sean McDermott plays these 8 linemen, it matters who's behind you. You got AJ Epinesa and N behind you. Feel pretty good about that. The one thing I don't like about the end position as of now is that they didn't touch edge in the draft. I mean, you're not going to get everything you want, but clearly receiver,
that's
safety.
not accurate. That's not accurate that they didn't touch edge in the draft. Solomon. Solomon's an important.
Not yet.
He's a he may be a project.
He's a Patriot type. Like you said, he started from the bottom.
He's a fifth rounder. All right. With hey, that could be a hit. All right. Solomon could be a hit. To say that the edge was ignored, I'm not going to let you have that with the Solomon pick. I don't think he's gonna be an afterthought.
One thing I do like about Von Miller too, we've talked about this before. He's a good mentor on the field.
I hope his name's Solomon, by the way. I could have.
It's Javon Solomon.
Okay,
Solomon. Good. It is. Von Miller is, if nothing else, a good mentor on the field.
Yeah,
he's known for
that.
I did.
Was that you? That was good.
Credit to me.
Yeah, credit to you.
But anyway, my whole point is I just think this defense is going to be better. Again, Benford is going to be even better. I expect Bernard to be better. Playing alongside Matt Milano, knock on wood, hopefully for an entire season they can stay healthy. And I really do like these safeties. I think these safeties, well, I don't know about Taylor Rapp. I mean, I might be stretching there. I don't know that Taylor Rapp's better than Jordan Poyer. Even 2023, 2024, Jordan Poyer, I'm not sold on that. Although Taylor Rapp was huge. In the Miami game, he was huge, bro.
I hear you. But anyone who wants to say the take that this current group of safeties, could be better, should be better, whatever, than last year's pair, even as down as they may have been, you're reaching. There's a lot of potential for midness, all right, amongst our 3 replacements at safety.
Feel like you got that last year, but sure. I mean, you're not wrong. I love Micah Hyde, man. Micah Hyde was not that guy anymore last year. Poyer, I thought, was better than people are giving him credit for.
I agree. I thought Poyer had a very good year.
Yeah, he came on at the end of the year, he was making plays.
But he needed to be put into that. He
To
needed
that
to be put into that big dime role.
Yeah.
All right, because he's not. He's not anything like he used to be in space.
Agreed. All right, I'm gonna take a real quick, like on the video side, literally like a 3-second break. Come right back, and I'll talk about the offense as well. All right, I'm back here with Tone Pucks. We're talking about the Buffalo Bills and if we think this team might be better than last year, but just whether we do or not, just how good is this team right now? I think we're kind of like sort of on the same page with the defense. The offense to me is a little more mysterious. Before we talk about like the state of the team or the offense, I did want to ask you, I meant to ask you this earlier too. We're talking about busting my balls about not having you on the day before the draft. And I know you're not much of a draft guy, but you knew who a lot of these receivers were anyway. What was your initial reaction at the time? Because I haven't really talked to you about this. On draft night, it's Thursday night. The Bills are on the clock. It's pick 28. Don't know who it's going to be, but we do know they traded down with the Chiefs, who, of course, come up. They get Worthy. The Bills go down to 32, and then they trade out again, and Carolina goes to get Xavier Legette. Were you thinking in your mind, at your point, like, what in the hell is going on here? Everyone in the world knows the Bills need a receiver, and they trade down twice and leave Thursday night without any of them. What was your initial thought?
Oh, my initial thought with the first trade was, fuck, we're going to get killed for this trade, and it's going to be super annoying to watch and read. And, that was a pretty easy one. The second trade down was like, all right, they know who they want. They're not worried about anybody grabbing them, and they're stacking. I still thought they were coming up on Friday night, but they never really did, I don't think. Coleman just started to make a whole lot of sense. All right, nobody was putting Coleman in the first round.
Nobody
was putting Coleman in the first round, and the Bills knew that. All right. And I think he was their guy all along.
And nobody wanted him, by the way. Excuse me. Everybody was wrong. Credible content creators, national draft experts. Nobody had the Bills taking Coleman.
The smart football guys rely heavily on separation metrics. All right. I think that's what was in play here. All right. And his weren't good. Right. His were, and then he didn't come back with a strong combine run, 40 either. So you got the combine 40 working against you, and you got poor separation stats working against you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of guy who's not going to become a darling, all right, of, smart content creators and the like. I get it. But the Bills liked him. Clearly. And this team has earned my, whatever. I can't find the word. They've earned my respect enough to where I let it play out.
Sure, that's fair. But let me ask you a question. Yeah, I want to make sure I say this right. All right, so they like Keon Coleman. That's their guy, right? Who's to say if they trade out from 28 to 32 that somebody doesn't get Keon Coleman at 28, 29, 30, or 31? And then they trade out again at 32. Did they know? Maybe they knew that Carolina was going to take Legette because they had the very next pick. Maybe they knew that. But I'm not saying they didn't. I feel like they probably had 2 or 3 guys, and they said, whichever one, we want the extra draft capital. We really want that third rounder, which I think was the biggest reason why they traded down with the Chiefs. And whatever else they can get. But maybe they had 2 or 3 guys that they would have been satisfied with. Because if they really like Keon Coleman that much, my mindset is, why did you trade down twice? You could have lost them to any of 3 or 4 teams drafting after you, or maybe someone coming up to jump you to go get them. Like, that was, if they like them that much, that feels risky to me. I mean, it worked out if that's who they really wanted, which I believe it is.
You just weigh the risk reward. I'm not going as far as to say that they liked him so much that the air would have entirely came out of the draft room if he got picked at 29. All right. I'm sure they had plan B, but I think plan A wasn't just based upon a player. It was also based upon probabilities, man. for everyone out there who thinks they know who some team is going to pick, or, can break it down to like 2 or 3 guys or something like that, that is happening at a level in these rooms. All right. That is, to the nth degree closer than we could ever be. And I think it tends to happen in the Buffalo Bills war room more than anywhere, man, because this team just seems connected to me. I feel like Brandon Beane has a hardcore pulse on things like player personnel and, and the draft as well. And I think they knew, man. I just think they knew that they could acquire those other assets and still get their guy.
What are your initial impressions of Keon Coleman since he's been drafted? Obviously, he had a very memorable opening press conference, which actually was. It was every bit as entertaining as people think it. I don't think that's being overblown. I actually think
he seems like a lot of fun. And I
hear a lot of that.
I have no idea what kind of football player he's going to be, but he seems like a lot of fun. And, the freakish size matters.
Sure.
All right. The freakish size and athleticism matters. All right. I don't quite remember, my cousin who we rap with from time to time. He's always
starting to enjoy that.
He's always going to pick like the most awful comparison you can think. But I don't think James Hardy had these sort of physical traits coming out. Yes, he was the bigger receiver, all those sort of things. But this kid, seems to be very much the opposite of what a lot of the receivers, Worthy especially, all right, kind of were in that mid-range bucket. The what was it, McConkey was his name?
Lad McConkey.
Yeah. All right, a lot of guys just kind of in that mid-range.
Full disclosure, that's why I wanted him. That's what I wanted.
This kid, I think the size mattered. I think they wanted a big athletic ex receiver, and I think he's probably
we assume Diggs.
I think he's probably more physically gifted than Gabe. Like Gabe's ability to break away, Gabe's ability to just catch a long ball, turn a long ball into action, and the Kansas City game will live forever.
Sure.
All right. But man, he didn't do it with astounding athleticism. Great. Right. And this kid seems to have it. I don't know that he'll be anything, but I'm not going to downplay him as a chump just because he wasn't in the conversation that a lot of people were having. He seems to have some freakish gifts. And, at the end of the day, all right, I am, and the Buffalo Bills are about harnessing those freakish gifts. They do it all the time.
I think what duped a lot of people.
We're not getting to Lindy Ruff at all tonight.
No, we're not. What duped a lot of people, I think, about is we all expected the next Stefon Diggs to come through this draft. We didn't expect
from a production standpoint.
Maybe even style.
I love this take.
Maybe even style too.
I love.
But you're
take.
right. This is more Gabe Davis. This guy is big. He's physical. He is a very, very good and willing blocker, a run blocker, which on a Joe Brady offense sure seems to mean a lot. So
Brady's so much better than Dorsey. That's when you sit there and evaluate why the Bills remain a contender. All right, what I believe will be a better offense is right at the top of the list. I think Brady is better than Ken Dorsey by a lot.
Sure. I think guys like McConkey, maybe Leggett, definitely Worthy, the smaller, well, Leggett's a big boy, but like these Diggs type. I looked it up and I had to do it for this show as well. The fastest 40 times, because people were losing their mind about Worthy. And it's equally idiotic that people are saying, well, Coleman only ran a 4.61. Guess who else did? Larry Fitzgerald and Jerry Rice and all that. So stupid. But if you're going to do that, then talk about Worthy and his unworldly speed. And I'm looking at it right now. This is the list of the fastest dudes ever at the combine. Darius Hayward-Bay. I'm only doing receivers here. Taquan Thornton, J.J. Nelson. Who the hell is J.J. Nelson? I don't even know. Jacoby Ford. Remember Jacoby Ford? Henry Ruggs, Marquise Goodwin, Jerome Mathis. That might be it for the receivers. Just about. Yeah. John Ross, of course. That's a guy I heard a lot of negative comparisons to. And then Xavier Worthy. So just because you're blazing fast and run a 4.22 or whatever it is you run, doesn't necessarily equate to success. That said, I hate that he went to the Chiefs. Oh my God, do I hate that. Dude, they got Hollywood Brown, and they're back to scaring the shit out of teams offensively with that speed. You got to
everybody knew that they would be adding weapons, all right, at receiver, and they ended up adding. You think of the guys out there that it could have been. Let's say if they were at the top of the draft, or if they had the money to spend, on somebody significant, like a Mike Evans or something like that. And we're gonna sit here and piss ourselves over Hollywood Brown and freaking and a 27th pick. No, thanks.
I get
Look, are they still the better team? Are they the team to beat? Absolutely. But am I in a panic because we traded our 27th, overall pick to them? I mean, not even remotely, bro. Not even remotely.
The reactions in real time on Thursday night for round one were wild, including me, man. I was pretty shook about it at the time.
If you wanted, were like Bulldog, I know, like Bulldog, like I think liked Worthy. Like if you liked Worthy and that move happened, then I think you've got a fair grievance.
I was more mad about the Carolina trade.
If he wasn't your guy and you just went off on whining because the Chiefs got him, and I'm also a firm believer that Bean knew enough about what was happening in front of him to know that Kansas City would have made the move elsewhere. People have been dismissive of that. I've seen both sides, and I've seen, people say you can't just assume that Kansas City would have got back in to get Worthy. And I disagree with that. I think Bean had at least a reasonable likelihood that they would be getting back in, and he had to weigh, all right, the addition of a 3 against that.
Sure. My reaction in real time was I wanted Brian Thomas Jr., but I wasn't going to go nuts for him. And when the Bills
went what, early 20s?
He went 23 to Jacksonville. After Jacksonville traded down from 17. Brandon Bean talked, or there was rumors.
Jones is a great pickup. Would be a great
possibly. There was a rumor that the Bills wanted to move up, but they weren't going to pay a second-round pick to do it. Anyway, when it got to pick 28, I wanted Xavier Legette. That was my guy. So I was furious at the trade, but then I was happy that it was Worthy and not Legette. Then the Bills were on the clock at 32, and Legette was still there. And that's when I got real pissed that they moved down one spot with Carolina. But I'm willing to see how it works out.
Where did Legette end up going?
32.
Oh,
yeah, so last pick of the first round. So
they let Carolina trade up to draft a receiver. So they somehow or another. Oh, Morgan spent time with the Bills, didn't he? Didn't Morgan spend time with the Bills?
Yeah, they might have not.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro, there might not be a GM in the NFL who's more dialed into other teams' war rooms than Brandon Bean. Yeah. We have been an absolute factory for NFL head front office positions over the course of the past 5 years or whatever. Bean is, I mean, seriously, bro, we have been an absolute factory of front office guys.
I got one more thing for you. And yes, I do think Bean knew that Carolina was going to take Legette when he traded down, and knew he was going to get Coleman. Once it got to pick 32 when he traded, I feel like he knew. And I don't think Legette was going to be their pick. I got one more kind of Bills take here that I've turned around on, and I've talked about this recently. I want to get your opinion on this. We talk about if this offense is good as last year and yada, yada, the team. At the time, I was completely on board with trading Stefon Diggs. They got a good asset for next year. I'm like, one or two things are going to happen. A, they get that pick. That's going to be ammunition. They're going to be wheeling and dealing, making another trade. It's a chess piece. Something bigger is coming. That's the way I felt the entire time. Now the draft's over. They got no money. He said they ain't trading for Brandon Ayuk or anything like that. They might add somebody on June 1st. I hope they do. But no big move ever came from it. Like, I guess shit it must have been really bad to think about. They got rid of Stefon Diggs and they ate $3 million. It didn't help them for the cap money this year. And they still got rid of him. And they only drafted, to this point, Keon Coleman. Kind of feel like, do you wish you could have that back? Like, would you rather have Stefon Diggs right now or a number 2 pick next year? Because you look at his receivers and you're talking about these, this guy's got to work out. If you had Diggs, Samuel, Shakir, Coleman, Hollins, it sounds a hell of a lot better. But were the issues underneath the surface so bad, do you think, in your opinion, that they just had no choice, man? They had to move on.
Well, I mean, the answer to that usually always falls somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It was definitely a little bit of both those things. And, it's probably the loss of Davis that most keeps me from saying that. Like, if the Bills just went Coleman and Samuel, all right, and a 2, let's just say the trade was this. All right, just Coleman, Samuel, and a 2 for Diggs. All right, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
But Davis's ability to, occasionally, at worst, affect, a football game is definitely will be missed. All right, in the time that it likely takes. Coleman to come up to speed. And look, no one's ever going to catch the football the way that Stefon Diggs did. All right. That'll be my biggest memory of Stefon Diggs. He was the best catcher of the football that I have ever seen for the Buffalo Bills.
And one of the best route runners, too.
And maybe ever, man. I mean, he just, up until this past year, he just didn't drop balls, man. He just didn't drop balls. But when I look at what they became last year and, what steps were taken, by depth players to, to possibly take on bigger roles, Shakir, number 1 at the top of the list, and the evolution of the asset drafted last year under a coordinator who I think might have a clue as to how to use them as opposed to the last coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I think this team's passing game is going to be fine, man. Maybe some growing pains, but, they weren't wowing anybody in the passing game to win football games last year. They weren't. If anything, he was forcing throws to Steph and during some of the, winning games that they won, man, games that they won. I just think they're fine. I keep coming back to the fact I think they're totally fine.
Yeah. I guess my last point when it comes to the offense, so I keep asking, how good are the 2024 Buffalo Bills? And you obviously think they're still really good. I tend to agree with you. I do think the defense potentially might even be better. The offense potentially could be as good, but where I think they're playing with fire is last year down the stretch when they won without Stefon doing much, I should say. He was out there, but really wasn't too much of a factor statistically because he was still out there and probably taking some eyes off other guys. I feel like maybe they got a little too overconfident right now because Gabe Davis also got hurt down the stretch too and wasn't doing all that much. There was a lot of running the ball, Cook out of the backfield, Kincaid, Shakir. I'm a little concerned that because of some, a smaller sample size of success they had late last year, which, by the way, the offense was not all that impressive in a lot of those wins either, that they're maybe a little bit overconfident that they didn't need Stefon Diggs, and that's why they traded him. That plus, the off-field stuff, I'm sure played a factor, but Gabe left, and
my belief is that I thought Ken Dorsey was kind of terrible in the 5 to 15 yard in intermediate range. I don't think he was very good at manufacturing yards in there. what I saw Joe Brady do at the end of the season, I mean, I saw Josh. I know it ended up looking really bad statistically, and people were all over it. Like the day, it might have even been the Chiefs game, but Joe Brady got Josh throwing those, throwing those wide receiver screens the way Tom Brady was. All right. Josh used to be super inaccurate on those. Those plays looked unbelievably discombobulated underneath Ken Dorsey, and they really got humming with Brady. And I just think all that he's going to do now is just, introduce the more intermediate game from there, which I think is, Kincaid in the 15 to 25 yard range, Curtis Samuel down a seam. Shakir ain't slow, bro. All right. Shakir ain't slow. This team has downfield weapons. I would argue, and Davis is the only one that you could really fight my argument with. I would argue that they have more downfield weapons at their disposal right now than they did in maybe not their heyday, maybe not when Emmanuel Sanders was there. That was a little different. All right. But shit, Stefon Diggs and Gabe Davis weren't stretching football fields. No. Okay? They weren't.
Stefon Diggs was pretty good at getting behind people, though. I mean, you could put his, people put him on blast because of his lack of numbers second half of the year. If Josh made a couple better throws, your boy's got probably another 200, 250 yards receiving and 2 or 3 more touchdowns, because he definitely got behind guys and Josh missed them. I mean,
those had,
he didn't miss him. Didn't miss him in the Chiefs game. Didn't miss him in the Chiefs game. But and look, man, I mean, June 1st, they're adding somebody. There's no way they're not adding him. Whether it's edge, I hope it is edge first. Maybe edge and receiver. I agree with you, man. I think this team is going to be fine. But they are. I was going to say they're not really
just saying
favorites.
Fine doesn't really drive the weekday daily Buffalo sports conversation. So you got to say more. I get it.
I don't know. I kind of,
it's fine.
It's wait and see.
They're fine. I'll talk to you. I'll see everybody in August. I'm out. They're fine. When does it start? July?
All right. So do you want to, how about we end this and then do 15 minutes of Lindy Ruff for tomorrow's show?
Can I smoke?
Yeah. 15 minutes. We'll end this show. This is
all right. I love this idea.
And then we'll get right into a segment with Lindy Ruff for Friday's show.
That's a perfect idea. You know what I did want to talk about? One last thing. I'm not going to get to it, but I wanted to talk about sometimes, like when I get jammed up on Spotify, like I just feel like I've listened to my favorites too much, and I don't. I'm looking for a spark on the way to a baseball game. You know what I threw on today, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, but we'll take that to another time. Maybe part of the Lindy Ruff show. I was rocking my entire drive from Kenmore to West Seneca was television theme songs from the 80s too.
Oh, I can't go wrong with that.
I got a whole playlist of them, and I was just like, I mean, honestly, dude, how about, like, I like to listen to them sometimes, and then in the middle of it, like, I kind of stop and pose, like, my name will come up during the credits. I like to do that.
All right, and I'm gonna end this there. Thank you, everybody on the Facebook side, the Twitter, the YouTube side, on the video side who watch us live. We'll be back with another episode. In fact, I'm going to have Tone on with me for at least part of a segment tomorrow. Talk to you guys then.